A very warm welcome to our today's MELAG webinar. Our topic today is benefits and workflow of MELAtrace. And yeah, my name is Florian Knut. I'm the product manager in charge for the MELAtrace software. Next to me is my colleague Daniel Werner, who's the head of IT support for MELAG.
Yeah, welcome from my side.
Yeah, so let's start. Today's topic will be as follows. At first, I will tell you something about MELAtrace, so what is it? The next step will be a live demonstration of the workflow of MELAtrace. So you will learn how creating loads, making approvals, and printing labels at the end. And of course, at the end of the webinar, I will tell you something about the benefits of MELAtrace. So, what is MELAtrace? MELAtrace is a complete and professional documentation software for the treatment process. It means you start with the washer disinfector load, and you can define which trays, which instruments are loaded in the washer disinfector. After the washer disinfector has finished, you can approve the batch. Means you can say, okay, everything was fine and I want to approve, and you get a protocol about that treatment process. The next step will be the autoclave load. It means you also load the autoclave with your trays, with your instruments, and so on. Next step will be the approval of the autoclave, and at the end, you can print your labels for your wrapped instruments. So far, I think the best would be to see it in live. So my colleague Daniel will take over for the live demonstration, and yeah, enjoy it, and hopefully you will need it for.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. And now we are on my own desktop here. I already opened the MELAtrace software, and yeah, you know the instrument process in the decontamination room. And yes, we start with the first point with the washer disinfector load. That means we have to define which used instruments are now in the washer. Therefore, I click here on top on my washer disinfector button, and yeah, I get that overview. On the left hand side in the table, I see all the different instruments, and yes, now I have to define which instruments I have for my washer. So if I'm not sure if it's the right one, then I can do a right click on my mouse and I'll get a picture. Okay, yes, I have that cable handpiece and I want to add it. Click on the right hand side. So I have that handpiece twice, so I can increase the number, and furthermore I have a handpiece from Sirona. I add this as well, and last but not least a turbine from Sirona. Add, and now I have on the right hand side my load definition, and when I click now on next, I'll see the summary of my load and I can check, yeah, everything is fine. These instruments are now in the washer. The load definition is completed. So I click the button completed in the right corner, and I have to start the MELAtherm now. I start the MELAtherm via the display, not here via the computer, and the other part of the MELAtrace software is MELAview, and MELAview holds the connection to the washer and gathers the logs. And when the log is successfully, then the log will hand over to the MELAtrace, and then I can give the approval to that log, to that washer process. So the washer is now ready, and I click here the next button, approval washer disinfector. I have to select what I want to do. I will click on MELAtherm 10, next, and now I have two protocols inside. The last one is from now. Click on that and the button next. And I see, okay, it was completed successfully. And yes, of course, I want to proceed. Therefore, next again, or yes. And I get the question, what I want to do now. Approve all load elements or do not approve individual load elements. And yeah, I can check the load, everything is fine, everything is okay. So I click now on approve all load elements. Next. And yeah, now I get a question, what I want to do now. And yes, of course, I want to sterilize all these instruments in the next step, in the sterilization step. And therefore, all instruments ticked on. Click on next. And now I get the first report. It's a cleaning and disinfection report. And in that report are all information about the process. That means who loaded the washer, who approved the cycle, what was in the washer, and the text protocol, the graphic protocol. When I scroll down, I see that the PDF consists of 4 pages, and yes, I have all information I can get here in one PDF. Generate report, and I see, okay, the washer disinfector batch can be used for load definition of a steam sterilizer within the next 24 hours. Okay. And yeah, now the first step is done. Washer, load, approval, washer. And yeah, now I have a lot of instruments on my table and I have to sterilize it. Therefore, I have to define now the load for the sterilizer. Click on the according button here. I have to choose my device, which I want to load. Now I choose the 41B. You see here the DUC universal. That means we can read the logs and we can handle the DUC universal as well. But now I take 41B, click on next. And left-hand side in the table, I see my washer, the last cycle with these instruments. And yes, I can move the instruments from the left-hand side to the right-hand side by click add, and I see here, okay, all these instruments are now in my sterilizer, and I can add more instruments, maybe here from the list, or I can say my sterilizer is now completely full with instruments, then click on next. So these instruments in the sterilizer were wrapped from a MELAG CO200, it's just an example, and I have a log from the MELAG CO200 and I can add this log as well by click here on plus, and I have here my path where the logs will be saved from the MELAG CO200, and this is my protocol. So I click on that, activate it, click on open, and I see here the overview from the log, and I can check, okay, yes, that's from today. These are the sealing processes for my instruments. Click on next, and a summary again, but now from the steam sterilizer. I can check the instruments here. Yes, these are the correct instruments. I see the sealing log here on the left side. I see who created the load definition, and I see date and time. So, completed. Click on the button, completed. start the steam sterilizer. Okay, I start the machine, and yeah, the same procedure. MELAview, it's recording the log, and when the log is successfully ended, then it will be handed over to the MELAtrace software, and then I can approve the cycle. Click here on the according button, approval steam sterilizer, and yes, now I have two protocols. It was a quick B and the universal program. Now I choose universal from my 41B and click on next. It was completed successfully. Proceed. Yes. And I guess the question regarding the indicators. That function here can be disabled via the further settings menu. In some country, maybe it is not necessary to put indicators to the load. Yeah, here in Germany it is standard. And yeah, I can check now the indicator and can choose one option here. I say yes, everything is fine. Indicators have changed. Next. And yeah, we know that question from the MELAtherm approval. Approve all load elements or do not approve individual load elements. It could be that a wrapped item, that the pouch bursted, and therefore I can say no, that not. The rest is okay. Approve all load elements I would choose now because everything is fine. Click on next. And I get a treatment report again. And that treatment report is information about the whole process. That means including the cleaning and disinfection, including the packaging, including the sterilization. Yeah, all information I can get are here in that treatment report. When I scroll down, I see, okay, the load definition was created from the demonstration admin, from the MELAG admin. I see the according sterilization protocol name, the device serial number, the batch number, when it was started and the end, and indicators. Yeah, the complete information are here in that PDF. And yeah, I have here the sealing log and yeah, from the sterilizer, the text protocol and the graphic protocol. And very important, I have here on top a process ID. Yeah, oops. This ID here is a mix from the protocol name and a database ID. So that process ID is unique. Yeah? And when I click now here on generate treatment report, I get the next question. Released successfully. Do you want to print labels? Yes, of course, because I have wrapped items and I have to mark them. Click on yes. And I see here the overview for my label. And I see exactly the same description here, the cryptical code. And this is, yeah, this is exactly in that barcode. That number here is in the barcode. And when I put my label on the wrapped item and later on I use that instrument, that wrapped item, then I can scan that code and I can put it to the patient card, for instance. And so I know that I used an instrument from that PDF with that number at, for instance, Mr. Miller. Just an example. And when later on Mr. Miller comes and says, oh, I have now an infection and because of you, then the doctor can open the according patient card, can check the numbers, the barcodes here, can find out the according treatment report and can show the PDF to Mr. Miller in our case, and yes, and he can prove that everything is fine in his practice and he is not the reason. So that's the traceability, yeah, and that's the easiest way for that. So that is really a lot because of the points load washer and load sterilizer. This is, I think, very interesting for small clinics, for surgical practices and similar practices. And for a small dental practice, we can customize that MELAtrace accordingly. That means we can click here on the left-hand side on further settings. And I have here the point functions. And I can deactivate the points for the load. And when I save now my settings and go back to the main menu, then the process looks like this. And this is okay as well. That's 100% safe, yeah, but without the points load definition. That means I load my washer with the used instruments and I start the washer. And yeah, MELAview, same procedure. Again, the MELAview software gathers the logs, check the log, and if everything is fine, if that log is okay, it will be handed over to the approval point here. And when I go in, approval, yes, of course, click on MELAtherm, then click on next. I have here my protocol from the last cycle from the washer. I will approve it, click on next. It was completed successfully, proceed, yes, of course. And approve batch or do not approve batch, I'll approve it. And next. And I get my cleaning and disinfection report again, but without the exact load definition. Here's only in the point mixed load now, but I have for sure my text log and my graphic log. Generate treatment report, and that was the first step, the approval of washer disinfector. Now I have a lot of instruments on my table and I have to sterilize it. Therefore, I load my sterilizer, start the sterilizer, MELAview, gathers the logs, hand over the log, and the user has to approve the cycle here. Approval steam sterilizer. So now it is a quick B program from my 41B, and click on next. It was completed successfully, everything is fine. Yes. Have the indicators changed? The user can check and can mark it here or tick it on accordingly. Yes, and next. How do you wish to proceed with the sterilization batch? I want to approve and next. So finally, I get my treatment report again with the steps sterilization, and who approved the cycle, when the cycle was start, and I have all information here inside. I have the text log and I have the graphic log and everything from the process. Generate treatment report, and in the last step I get a question, labels, yes or no, and I can click here on yes. I can select the number from my labels, maybe here, and then I can, well, maybe just one, and then I can say print. That's it. That's the small way from the MELAtrace. Okay, now you know the extended way and the normal way. And last point, I'd like to show you how to add a user and a load element into the database. Let's start with the user. Here on the left-hand side, I have the user administration. I'm logged in as an administrator. We have two different roles, administrator and user. So I have here 4 key points. I choose the second one, users. So I see here the user ID, standard 1000, and the MELAG admin. But I want to add a new user. So click here on the plus symbol. And I get the mask on the right hand side, and I can say it's Miss and Catherine Smith, and the user ID is the abbreviation. I should choose a short name or a short row of symbols, and in our case maybe it makes sense when we select KSM for Catherine Smith, and she's not an administrator, she's just a user. So the new password for Catherine is very secret, and my administration password, I'm logged in as MELAG admin. My administration password is MELAG. And last but not least, I can add an image from Catherine here via that button. Click on select. And I have on my desktop one folder for the MELAtrace. And I have here 5 other folders. One is for the database backup, device protocols, and I have in my folder instrument pictures, user pictures, and Catherine is here on the right hand side. Click on the picture, open, and don't forget to save. That's it. Now we have here Catherine Smith in the list, and that's it. I have some more points here, authentication and auto logout, so I can really customize that software according to the practice. So that was a user, and now I go to the other point, to the load management, and now I want to add a new load element to the database, to the long list. So you see the overview is nearly the same. I can add standard batches or sterilization containers, or I can define some reasons for failed cycles. But here on the left hand side is the point load elements. Click here on the plus button, and the name from the load element is handpiece from W and H. W and H, and I will sterilize it all the time, so I can activate the checkbox here. I can add a barcode if I work with a scanner in the treatment room, and yes, I can define the risk class, a handpiece. I would choose critical B, and I can add a picture like have you seen before. Click here on the button, and now instrument pictures, instruments, and handpiece from W and H is here. Click on that picture, open, and don't forget to save. Yeah, that's it. That was a short overview about the software. And here in the Help Center, you'll find always the operating manual, and especially here for the demonstration software, you find the instructions for the demonstration software. And if you released or approved all the internal saved cycles, then you can reset the database, that you can start with a fresh system afterwards. Yeah, this is all from my side, and now I want to give the word back to Florian.
Okay, thank you, Daniel, for that nice presentation of MELAtrace. The demonstration version you already seen now from presented by Daniel, we can provide you after the webinar with a link there. You can download it, and then you can, independently of connection of devices, you can use the MELAtrace demo version. I think it would be a good help for you to learn more about the software and of all features and functions. Yeah, so we'll come to the benefits. So as you see, MELAtrace connects all cleaning disinfection steps of the complete treatment process. And so you ensure a comprehensive documentation. I think it's the most important point for the practice. You can, if you want, trace each instrument, the complete process. You can customize MELAtrace very fine for the requirements of the practice, meaning that you can deactivate the load, so you just use this as simple approval software. You can connect all MELAG devices with an interface, and additionally the DAC Universal too. And I think a very interesting point for the practice is that you just purchase one single license of MELAtrace, and this is all of the cost. You don't have to pay for each device. You don't have to pay for any service fees or something like that. Just one single license, and that's all for the practice. Yeah, and of course, I think you have seen it. It's an easy-to-use interface, which is enabled for the touch function. So the system requirements. So I think nearly a normal laptop in the practice will have the system requirements. So it is available from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Of course, you need a mid-class processor. You need memory of 1 GB and free memory of 7 GB, and so on. So, but I think it's not that special requirements for MELAtrace. Yeah, so we are at the end of our webinar. Of course, I would like to present you further webinars in the future. So next week we will have 2 webinars regarding infection control, and also about the ClinicLab series. The ClinicLab series are 4 autoclaves from MELAG, large autoclaves with 100 and 200 liters. I think that could be also interesting. And of course, we will offer further webinars regarding MELAtrace. In the beginning of the next year, we will show you the technical side of MELAtrace, meaning licensing, installation, how to connect the devices. I think that's the other side of MELAtrace, which really is important if you have a client or a practice who wants to use MELAtrace. And of course, we will offer further webinars about our washer disinfector, MELAtherm, MELAseal, and other topics. I think it is always a good idea to take a look on our website from time to time, because we will publish the webinar dates on the site. Yeah, so then we would like to thank you for your attention. you.